Okay, I had lunch and I feel like a human again. So here we go through part 3 of chapter 17, which is animal diversity. We talked about the rest of the phyla except for Chordata. So I'm going to share my screen right now and we're going to talk about phylum Chordata, which includes us. Okay, so phylum Chordata, these are chordates, and chordates are going to expand into a whole lot more groups. So we've got this phylogeny here, and we are basically expanding out chordates into their own phylogeny. So we've got everything from these really ancestral sorts of organisms, marine organisms, all the way to modern day mammals, including us. So chordates include invertebrate and vertebrate animals, meaning that some of the chordates do not have vertebra that are protecting their nerve bundles that are going along their spine, that's not protecting their spinal cord. So each chordate, no matter what kind, okay, every single chordate is, hold on, I'm trying to move this thing around. Okay, each chordate has these features at some point during its life. So first, it's got a notochord, and in many chordates, this is going to develop into the backbone. So here is your notochord in blue, extends the entire length of the back of this organism. Number 2 is a dorsal hollow nerve cord, and that dorsal hollow nerve cord is right above that blue notochord. It's in yellow, if you can see that. Okay, so basically a nerve bundle. In many chordates, it's going to develop into the spinal cord. Then you've got these pharyngeal slits, pharyngeal pouches or pharyngeal slits. These are going to become the jaw and inner ear, or gills if you have an aquatic organism. Then you have what's called a postanal tail. Okay, so you've got the anus and then postanal, so this tail extends past the anus. You've got this tail. It's going to remain in some chordates, and then it's going to become vestigial in others, meaning that it's going to more or less go away. So I forget, am I going to show you? Sure, let me show you real quick. So that postanal tail, give me a second. I've showed you this before. Let's see. Okay, I've shown you the baby app before, and where you can see these pharyngeal slits, and then you can also see this postanal tail, okay? And it's got its little arm buds and its little leg buds and everything. And then as it continues getting older, continuing development, it's gonna start losing this tail, okay? So it becomes smaller. Let's see, hold on. You can see, oh, come on. That tail down at the bottom, it becomes smaller and smaller and smaller. Oh, it's so annoying. Then eventually it is going to go away, okay? So in organisms where the tail becomes vestigial, it is eventually just going to recede into the body. Now we still have our tailbones though. We still have our tailbones, and a lot of our pelvic muscles are attached to that tailbone to give us stability. Gabe, chill out. It's thundering. All right, guys, so we're gonna start on this chordate phylogeny. So if you look at these bottom organisms, and remember, just we're not ladder thinking, okay, but we are talking about tunicates and lancelets. Tunicates and lancelets, stop. Tunicates and lancelets, if you trace back these branches, they don't have any of these characteristics that they would share with chordates, other than the fact that these organisms have the notochord, the nerve cord, the pharyngeal slits, and the postanal tail. Guys, hold on one second. Hold on, I really want to stop recording for a second. Ugh, it doesn't matter. Because I want to, hold on. I'm going to get my shit together in just a second. Okay, I'm pausing the recording just for a second so I could put Gabe up. Okay, sorry, I had to put Gabe up because he was getting real amped from the thunder. I'm going to reshare this PowerPoint. Okay, so we're talking about lancelets and tunicates, and these are invertebrates that resemble ancestral chordates. So remember, they are going to share all of these characteristics with the rest of the chordates, but they don't have things like a cranium, vertebrae, jaws, lungs, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so tunicate larvae are free swimming and adults are sessile. Okay, so here are your tunicates. The larvae are free swimming and the adults are sessile. Then lancelets right here, their tails, it's so funny, their tails are buried in these sand or rock layers, and then they're just more or less gonna like move around like this and filter feed with anything that's passing by. So lancelets, they've got elongated bodies with no hearts. That was this organism with its tail buried in the sand. And then the tunicates, it's got a tunic covering a sack-like body. So this is like a tunic. And again, it shares all of these characteristics with these ancestral, that all chordates share, okay? All right, now we are going to look at hagfishes and lampreys. They have a cranium but lack jaws. So if we trace back this branch for hagfishes, trace this back, hagfishes have a cranium and they share all of those characteristics of the ancestral chordate. Lampreys, trace this branch back and you have not only a cranium but also vertebrae. So this organism is a vertebrate, this is an invertebrate, okay? They are marine animals with a cranium that surrounds the brain but does not have jaws. Jaws is the next characteristic that's going to come up in the following chordates. Okay, so hagfishes, they've got slime production, they have a cranium, but no vertebrae. Lampreys, they've got cartilage, skeleton, vertebrae, and a cranium. So the jawless fishes feed on small invertebrates, decaying animals, or suck blood from fish. So if you look at their mouthpieces, they're going to latch on to other organisms and feed sucking blood, okay? Similar for the hagfish, it's got these really sharp teeth that is basically just gonna latch it onto other organisms. Okay, now we're gonna talk about some different types of fish. So fish were among the first chordates with vertebra, which protect the spinal cord. So your vertebra, they are just these bones that are separated by discs, right? And these bones that are physically protecting your spinal cord. So bony fish have lung precursors and a bony skeleton, while cartilaginous fishes do not have that bony skeleton, but they do still have jaws, vertebrae, and a cranium. Okay, so fishes, aquatic vertebrates with jaws, gills, and fins. So they have vertebrae that are protecting the spinal cord, they have jaws, they have gills, and they have fins. Here's the diversity of bony fish versus cartilaginous fishes. All the fish at the bottom, these are your bony fish, a couple types of your bony fish. You have hundreds of different types of bony fish. And then up here, two types of cartilaginous fish, like your stingrays and your sharks, okay? So with the cartilaginous fish, you have cartilage skeletons and paired fins. Bony fish also have paired fins and they have a swim bladder, but they have a skeleton, a bony skeleton, instead of a cartilaginous skeleton. All right, now we're up to amphibians. And if you trace back this branch for amphibians, you can see what characteristics these organisms have. Okay, so amphibians, we know frogs are amphibians. Let's trace this back. You can say, okay, amphibians have limbs and lungs. They're tetrapods. They have they have lungs, so the lung precursor doesn't matter. They've got a bony skeleton. They have jaws, they have vertebrae, and they have a cranium. So lungs and limbs facilitated amphibians move to land. So instead of now just having fish that are well adapted to their environment, now we have these organisms that are closely tied to aquatic environments, but can also live terrestrially. Their eggs must remain moist, so these tetrapods retain a strong link to water. Here's your diversity. You've got frogs, don't know what that is, and a salamander, okay? So amphibians respire via their lungs. They've got gills and moist skin. So right at different points in the amphibious life cycle, you're gonna have different things, right? This frog is going to have lungs, but when it was a tadpole, did it have lungs? No, okay? It had gills and these lung precursors that would then turn into lungs once it went through that metamorphosis. All right, so now we had amphibians that were closely linked to water, and what facilitated this like move away from water is what we know of as the amnion. So the amnion allows reptiles and mammals to breed in completely dry habitats. So we do not have to have much of a link to water in order for us to reproduce, as opposed to amphibians, which have to because they lay their eggs and then tadpole stages, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So because of the amnion, things like reptiles and mammals are not allowed to, but thrive really in these dry habitats. So a reptile's amniotic egg has a leathery or hard outer layer surrounding a yolk that nourishes the developing embryo. So it has this shell, and then on the inside, you've got the amnion surrounding this embryo, but you also have what's called the yolk and the yolk sac, okay? And that yolk and yolk sac, it is going to nourish that embryo while it's developing within this egg, okay? Now, similarly though, you're gonna have many similarities in a mammal's embryo. So when I just showed you the baby app, at the very beginning, you could see a yolk sac that was attached to the embryo. And the embryo at the stage that it has a yolk sac looks extremely similar to this. It looks more similar to this when it's 5-6 weeks old embryo than it does like this. It doesn't get to looking like this until 9-10 weeks. So in the embryo, you also have this amnion, okay, this sac. This amnion right here, all this purple business. You've got the embryo, you have the placenta that is going to serve as the middle ground. So the placenta, it's getting blood, it's getting nutrients, it's getting water, it's getting everything you need from the mother. And then it's going to deliver those nutrients through these blood vessels and things, through the umbilical cord to the embryo. And again, all of this is in the mammal's uterus instead of being in an egg. All right, so let's talk about reptiles specifically. Reptiles, including snakes, lizards, and birds, they lay amniotic eggs and thrive on dry land. They don't have to have that tie to water in order for them to reproduce. So reptiles have scales and feathers. They have an amnion, limbs, lungs, bony skeletons, jaws, vertebrae, cranium, and then all of those ancestral chordate features. Okay, diversity includes snakes, lizards, turtles, alligators, and birds. All different kinds of birds. A bird like a cardinal and a bird like a freaking ostrich. It's crazy. So they're the first vertebrates to thrive on dry land, which is important. Then we come to mammals. Okay, mammals, really cool. Okay, mammals, they are amniotes. They have that amniotic sac that is going to protect that embryo and make it so that it doesn't have to be in this aquatic environment. Amniotes with hair and milk secreting mammary glands. So they've got hair and mammary glands and amnion limbs, lungs, bony skeleton, jaw, vertebrae, cranium, and then those ancestral features. So your diversity, got a few different classes of mammals. So monotremes, these are going to be organisms like a platypus, like an echidna. When I was a senior in college, and we went on a trip for field work with the lab that I was working in to Australia. And we saw a freaking echidna. It was so cool. These monotremes, they are mammals that lay eggs, okay? Mammals that lay eggs. Then we have our next class, which is marsupials. And marsupials, okay, so they do develop within the uterus. Then they're born premature. They're born immature, okay? They cannot survive once they are born. So marsupials have these sacs where the young are gonna complete the development, okay? So young complete development in pouch, marsupials. Then you have placental mammals like humans, dolphins, and bats, where the young is gonna complete the development in the uterus so that once it's born, it will continue to develop, but it's born with all of its organ systems perfectly functional. All right, guys, so we are going to have one more video for chapter 17. I'm going to go record it now. And yeah, so 4 videos for 17, 1 video for chapter 16, which was plant evolution and diversity. So I'm gonna go record that now. Bye.